Hello there, Talkwell Crayons here. Now my reuse of avocado stones was unconventional, I admit, but I never considered where it could lead to for some people, not least my friend Tarek Eddingley. I came all the way to New Zealand to help him, only to find that I probably didn't help him at all. Thankfully, he's come to terms with his avocado addiction now and is in rehab. What is reassuring is that Tarek I producer tracked down in the Abel Tasman's Barks Bay, and he agreed to this interview.
Now that you've decided to overcome your resistance to rehab, how are you finding it, and why the Abel Tasman?
Well, I'll answer the second part first, and say the Abel Tasman is just a beautiful part of the country. Beautiful people, genuine, real down to earth, just like back in Yorkshire. In terms of rehab, well, I realised I couldn't go on, so I had to start somewhere. In the end, I thought I'd have a go at tepid chicken, but of course I didn't realise that cold turkey were figurative. Thankfully, I cooked chicken first, and then I let it cool down to tepid. Otherwise, I might get salmonella.
What do you see as your biggest challenge?
Going to the familiar places, like Sunday market, and generally farmers markets where avocados are on sale, and it's going to be really difficult to resist, As Oscar Wilde said, he can resist everything except temptations, I think that's going to be a challenge. Also, I'd say that there are in markets where I know people and they know me and they know about my weakness. They often prey on it, and I could easily fall back if I'm not careful. So I'm going to have to give these people a wide berth.
And it's just not markets, is it? It's also every cafe you go into seems to be, prioritizing avocado toast.
Aye, smashed avocado and toast with a little olive bowl on side, you can't go much further than that really before you're back on the wagon, you're back on the wagon.
Is there ever a time where you could look at an avocado and feel like you wouldn't relapse or fall backwards?
I'd like to think so, but it's going to be hard, and it's a long, hard road.
Is avocado your first addiction? And if not, how would you compare it to other drugs you've taken?
Back up in Yorkshire, there were an advert on years gone by, on cobbled streets of Yorkshire. The advert was for Ovis Brit. That was the first thing as a teenager. In fact, pre-teens, I were addicted to the stuff. I'd eat a whole loaf in one afternoon while watching television, watching wrestling, waiting for football pools to come up, to ticker tape of the results to see if I might win $1 million,
Now that you're well into your rehab journey, how does your sponsor feel you're doing?
I'd say generally well, but she's very apprehensive because sometimes I don't show up like I really bought into the whole thing, but I have. So I recognise, a trepidation, but I'm really looking to her for the support I need. And knowing that she were an addict before, not avocados, but heroin actually, I heard. Well, knowing that she's there and she knows what it's like to be addicted, well, I feel that I've got hope with her by my side.
And what advice would you give to anyone else that's potentially tempted to try avocado in less conventional ways?
I think generally learning to notice what we're thinking in any given moment. I think that's important so that we can perhaps second guess what's going to happen and what might happen and how we might react if that thing turns up. I think that's a key thing. So if temptation presents itself, you'll have a few milliseconds or so to say, this is a cul-de-sac and I don't want to walk all the way to end and then bang my head on brick wall, so you can step aside, get a wide berth like the people at market.
Looking back on it, now that you know, can you remember what your tipping point was from just mild enjoyment to full-blown addiction?
I'm not suggesting for a second that Mistress Beryl were complicit in this, but the very nature of a sexual obsession, because it's so primal. We're primates at the end of the day. I think that for me, that the pleasure there, and then having smashed avocado on toast, as you mentioned before at cafes, but with Mistress Beryl afterwards, it were always something that was just so intoxicating. I thought, I like to try this in other ways. It must be wonderful, wonderful. You know, I think that were the key for me now, looking back.
Did you have any gateway practices, shall we say?
I think the ball gag, that were one thing, and then it turned to the beads. You know, that were another thing. I just found so much pleasure in that, and I think with Beryl, you know, gear that I've got such a high-powered job in power station, you know, making decisions every day, people wanting you to tell them what to do even though I don't want to, then I find that hard to let go of that control, but I so want to be told what to do, you know, so Beryl just makes me obey, and I just do it without a thought.
And now that you are in rehab and pulling away, what's your relationship with Mr. Sparrow like these days?
Well, I had to be strong. I had to close that door. That avenue for me, but we're a dead end, a cul-de-sac, if you like. You know, so for me, though she probably still want me money, I had to say no more.
Would you say that she's potentially a serial predator?
I doubt she'd see it like that. She just sees that people have needs and she's there to service them, you know, and they've got money to pay for it. So, but in many respects, I think that, you know, little cards and, you know, little adverts here and there, you know, in the local newspaper, you know, it's there for people who are weak, you know.
Well, best of luck to you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your time in the Able Tasman.
Oh, thanks very much. I much appreciate bit of a check-in here, and it's such a beautiful place. Beautiful place. As you can see, he's well on his way to recovery. I hope this brings some solace to people out there who may be struggling. Ta-ra a bit.